Hello everyone, welcome back to Prestigious Online Lessons. This is Macroeconomics Class 5. Today we're going to go over the PPC, comparative advantage and absolute advantage questions, and terms of trade. First, let's start by reviewing the PPC. We also went over this in the previous classes, but I want to just give a quick overview before we get into comparative and absolute advantage, as this is the graph we're going to be using to cover those topics. So a few things you need to know with this graph is that it's going to show the trade-off between two products. For example, let's consider the PPC for country A. Here, the maximum amount of cars country A can produce depend on the number of bikes it produces, and vice versa. Any point on the line is going to be efficient and feasible. Any point under the line is going to be feasible but inefficient. And any point outside the line is going to be impossible to achieve without growth. At this point, I think it is also important to consider the types of efficiency we're talking about. Productive efficiency is going to be about the use of resources. If an economy is on the PPC, it is going to be using its resources efficiently and therefore achieves productive efficiency. For example, if we have a production possibilities curve like this and have 2 points like this, the point where the economy achieves productive efficiency is going to be the one where the point is on the line. Allocative efficiency is a little different. It's not about resources. It's about making consumers well off. An economy is going to achieve allocative efficiency if it produces at the point on the curve that makes the consumers as well off as possible. So it's going to be about allocating the resources efficiently rather than using all of your resources. So if we had a curve like this and points like this, the point where we achieve allocative efficiency is going to be different than the productive efficiency. If we ask for the productive efficiency, both this point and this point would be efficient. But when we're talking about allocative efficiency, we're talking about what point makes the consumers as well off as possible. Now, in this situation, maybe the consumers want this good too, so this point would not be as beneficial for the consumers as this point or somewhere in the middle would be. And in that case, allocative efficiency would be achieved like over here. Of course, there's going to be cases where allocative efficiency, making the consumers as well off, is going to be like towards this side or towards this side. But just keep in mind that allocative efficiency is about making consumers as well off as possible. It's about finding the balance between the two goods to benefit the consumers the most. And productive efficiency is about using all of your resources and making the production efficient. With the PPC, we can also illustrate the opportunity cost associated with these trade-offs. For example, going back to the country A example, if a country decides to produce only cars, it's going to be giving up 50 bikes. So the opportunity cost of producing 25 cars is going to be 50 bikes. We can also simplify this and say 25 cars is giving up 50. So if the opportunity cost is constant, and in this case it is because we see that the line is straight, that means if we divide both by 5, the opportunity cost of making 5 more cars is going to be 10 bikes. So we can say that the opportunity cost of 1 car is 2 bikes. Because every time we're producing 1 more car, every time we're going from this point to this point, we're giving up 2 bikes. Now let's look into another country with the same examples. Country B, and it also produces cars and bikes. In this case, if the country decides to only produce cars, it's going to give up 120 bikes. So the opportunity cost of producing 30 cars is 120 bikes. In this case too, the opportunity cost is constant. It's a straight line. So we can just do some math, divide both by 30 and say the opportunity cost of 1 car is going to be 4 bikes. And what this means is every time we produce 1 more car, every time we're going from point here and a point here and making more cars, we're giving up 4 bikes. Now let's say these two countries want to trade. They want to provide goods and services to each other and receive goods and services in return. An economy will produce more if it specializes in something. So if there are two countries that produce the two exact things, they will be better off if they specialize and produce what they're better at producing than trade. How do we determine what country should produce what? Now that's when we get into comparative advantage and absolute advantage. A country has a comparative advantage if its opportunity cost of producing a good is lower than the opportunity cost its trade partner has for producing the same good. For example, in this case of country A and country B, we said that country A's opportunity cost of producing one more car was 2 bikes. And we said that the opportunity cost of country B for producing one more car was 4 bikes. That means country A has a comparative advantage in producing cars, because producing one more car requires the giving up of less bikes than in country B's case. That means country A has the comparative advantage and should be producing the cars, because it's giving up less bikes to do so. Now that's not saying that it's better at producing cars. We know from these graphs that country B can produce more cars with the same resources it has. This means it has an absolute advantage in the production of cars. It can make more of a product with the given resources. However, that doesn't mean it should be producing it. When we look at what country will be producing what, we look at the comparative advantage. Meaning the country will supply whichever product it has lower opportunity cost for. So just to wrap up the vocab, comparative advantage is going to be the ability to produce goods and services at a lower opportunity cost. It's going to be what you produce best without giving up the least. And that's what we're going to look at when we're deciding which country should produce what. An absolute advantage is going to mean you're able to produce more with the same resources. For example, if someone gives you 2 laborers and one country can make 4 more products with the same 2 laborers, then they have the absolute advantage. But that doesn't mean they should be producing that good in a trade. Now let's look into some examples with an important distinction between output and input questions. First, we have a question with outputs. This is how many each country produces of these goods. When we have a question like that, in order to find the opportunity cost, we look at each country one by one and put the other good over the good we want to find the opportunity cost for. So for an output question, we're doing other over. Now let's see what I mean by that. Let's look at country X first. It can produce trucks or laptops. It can produce 15 trucks or 2 laptops. We're putting the other over. So we're putting the other good on top of the good we're trying to find the opportunity cost for. So the opportunity cost country X has of producing trucks is 2 over 15. We're taking the other good and putting it over the good we're finding the opportunity cost of, 2 over 15. And we do the same for laptops. We're taking the other good and putting it over, so 15 over 2. Then you repeat the same thing with the other country. You take the other and put it over, 20 over 5. And for this, you take the other, 5, and put it over the good you're finding the opportunity cost of. So the opportunity cost country X has for producing trucks is 2 over 15. And the opportunity cost it has for producing laptops is 15 over 2. Country Y's opportunity cost for producing trucks is 20 over 5, and for laptops it's 5 over 20. We said that a country has a comparative advantage if it's having the lowest opportunity cost. So that means whichever one has the lowest opportunity cost, it should be producing that product. So after we do this, we look at it product by product. For trucks, country X has a 2 over 15 opportunity cost, while country Y has 20 over 5. 2 over 15 is a lower number, so we say that country X has a lower opportunity cost in producing trucks, therefore it should be producing the trucks. When we look at laptops, country X has a 15/2 opportunity cost, while country Y has 5/20. 5/20 is lower than 15/2, so we say that country Y has the comparative advantage, so it should be producing the laptops. When we do this, we get country X should be specializing in producing the trucks, and country Y should be specializing in producing the laptops. And they should be trading to achieve the maximum amount of products they can have. Now this means that because country X is going to be making the trucks, they're going to be supplying the trucks to country Y, and country Y is going to be supplying the laptops to country X. That means country X is going to be importing the laptops and exporting the trucks. Country Y is going to be exporting the laptops and importing the trucks. Now we have a similar question with a similar setup, but about inputs. We're looking at the labor hours needed. So these numbers are going to represent the amount of hours that are going to be put into the production. Country A is going to need 20 hours to produce the trucks and 3 hours to produce the laptops. And country B is going to need 7 hours to produce the truck and 30 hours to produce the laptop. We do this a little bit differently than the output questions. With the output questions, we were doing other over. With the input questions, we're doing other under. So the other is going to go under, but to find the opportunity cost. So for country A trucks, we're putting the other under. So it's 20/3. And again, 3, and we're putting the other under. And we're doing the same thing with country B. We're putting the other, which is 30 under 7. 7/30. And 30/7. Then again, like we did in the previous question, we just find the lowest opportunity cost. In this case, for trucks, we have 20/3 and 7/30. We know that 7/30 is a lower number, so we say that country B should be producing the trucks. And looking at laptops, we have 3/20 and 30/7. Because 3/20 is a lower number, we say that country A is going to produce the laptops. So just to review, when you're doing comparative advantage questions like this, pay attention to whether it's about inputs or outputs. If it's an output question, other goes over. If it's an input question, other goes under. And that's how you're going to find the opportunity cost. Then you can just circle whatever opportunity cost is the lowest for each product and say that that country should be supplying that product. Now let's move on to terms of trade. Terms of trade is going to be the rate at which one good can be exchanged for another. Think of it as the price. Both countries need to agree on a price for their goods for the trade to be beneficial. For this, let's look at another example. Let's say Bob and Mary are bakers and both only make batches of cookies or cakes. In Bob's case, one more batch of cookie means making 2 less cakes. In Mary's case, one more batch of cookie means she's losing 1 cake. So that means Mary's opportunity cost is less since she's losing the less amount of cakes for one more batch of cookies. That means she has a comparative advantage in the production of cookies and should be producing the cookies. Let's write that down. Now let's look at the cakes. In Bob's case, one more cake means he's losing 1/2 of a batch of cookie. In Mary's case, for one more cake, she's losing 1 batch of cookie. That means Bob's opportunity cost for cakes is lower, and by following the same logic and the comparative advantage, he should be making the cakes. All right. Now that we know who's making what, Bob making cakes and Mary making the cookies, let's move on to the terms of trade, or setting the prices. We want the terms to be beneficial for both, so we can't make one side pay more than something that they would have spent if they produced it on their own. The rule of thumb for the terms of trade is that any price between the opportunity cost of the producer and the opportunity cost of the buyer is going to be beneficial for both sides. In this case, Bob is making the cakes, so he's going to be selling them to Mary. That means Bob is the seller and Mary is the buyer for cakes. The opportunity cost of the producer for cakes is going to be 1/2. Because Bob is losing 1/2 batch of cookies for every cakes he makes, that means his opportunity cost for one cake is 1/2. Since he's the producer, is going to be the opportunity 1/2 is going to be the opportunity cost of the producer. And then we look at the opportunity cost of the buyer. Mary is the buyer. Her opportunity cost for one cake, for producing one more cake, was one batch of cookie. So her opportunity cost is 1. That means any number between 1/2 and 1 is going to be beneficial for both sides. So, for example, let's say 3/4. If we say that one cake is going to cost 3/4 of a batch of cookie, then both sides will be happy. Now let's check our answer right. We said that 3/4 batch of cookie is going to buy one cake. Now Bob can make cakes for 1/2 of a batch of cookie. Since he's going to be getting 3/4, he's going to be making more cookies, so he benefits. In Mary's case, she's going to be losing one batch of cookie for one cake. In this case, she's getting that one cake, but only losing 3/4 of batches of cookies, so she also benefits. In summary, the price you'll set that makes both sides happy is going to be between the opportunity cost of the producer and the opportunity cost of the buyer. Now let's do one more example of setting of terms of trade. Let's bring back country X and country Y for this question. In the previous slides, we figured out the opportunity cost for each. Because this is an output question, we do other over. So 2 goes over 15, and 15 goes over 2, 20 goes over 5, and 5 goes over 20. And we said that because we're going with whoever has the lower opportunity cost. Country X is going to be producing the trucks, and country Y is going to be producing the laptops. Now let's look at how we're going to find the terms of trade, what one truck is going to cost in terms of laptops. Now, country X is going to be making the trucks and supplying them to country Y. That means the buyer for trucks is going to be country Y, and the producer for trucks is going to be country X. We said that the opportunity cost of the producer and the opportunity cost of the buyer is going to be the ranges where both sides are going to be happy. Now the producer's opportunity cost, country X's opportunity cost, is 2 over 15. The buyer's opportunity cost for making trucks is 20 over 5. Any number that's between these two opportunity costs is going to be beneficial for both sides. So let's say 20 over 5 is 4. So let's say 2. Let's say each truck is going to cost 2 laptops. Country X is going to be benefiting because they are giving up less for 2 laptops. Country Y is going to be better off because if they decide to make the trucks themselves, they're going to be giving up more than what they are spending if they're trading. So just remember, the price you're going to set for these goods or the terms of trade is going to be between the opportunity cost of the producer and the opportunity cost of the buyer. And as long as you stay in between those two numbers, the number you set will be beneficial for both sides. All right, that's it for today. In the next lesson, I'm going to go over the Phillips curve. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next class.